years since we have started working on this truck, and ever since then it hasn't been running right. Mechanical issues that we do not understand what's going on. But today we're finally going to fix that. We're going to pull the engine, completely rebuilt, and maybe change the carburetor if that's the issue. We disconnected the engine from everything in the engine bay and raised it up and onto a stand so that we'll be able to work on it.
Yeah, that's supposed to be clean. That's not supposed to have paint. How the gasket's supposed to seal.
Yeah, that's
probably been sucking air all through there the whole time.
Yeah,
the problem.
It's supposed to look like bare metal, like that right there.
Somebody just threw this thing together.
We drained all the oil out of the engine and it did not look good.
It is dirty looking. We didn't even drove it. I don't understand why it's so dirty.
We took a pry bar and tried to get the first head off of the engine.
Yeah, water out of that. That's bad head gasket.
This could have been the reason why the engine was not having good combustion.
It looked pretty clean though.
Yeah, but there shouldn't be no water coming out of them, I wouldn't think.
Is that a little bit of rust on that?
Well, them look good. They just need to be clean.
We took the pistons and cam out to prepare to clean off the small block. We rinsed everything off and made sure all the ports actually allowed the water to go through.
Cam bearing. One of them, that one there is flowing the best because it's right over the hole. Now look at these.
Yep.
Here's barely trickling. That's rust.
In order to clean the cylinder walls, we had to spray some WD-40 and take a honing machine and honed out each cylinder one by one.
Our new ring gap is 19 thousandths. We checked the old ring. It's got 46 thousandths. And that's probably why we wasn't getting very good compression.
Yeah, because the oil was leaking through the piston rings.
It was smoking a little bit, but it was the compression was the main thing. I think he must have had it bored over and did not use the oversized, the 30 over rings is all I can think of.
The next step was to change the freeze plugs before we paint the engine. So we just took a screwdriver and a hammer and knocked it out. It was pretty tough to get them out of the holes, but when we eventually got all the freeze plugs out, we went ahead and put the new ones in. We usually want to replace these after so long because the heat will shrink them and then the coolant would eventually leak out. And yeah, you don't want that to happen. We repeated this process for all 9 of these freeze plugs. There was 3 on each side, 2 in the back and 1 in the front.
Yeah, cause I think that's a factory. Yeah, we're not touching that one. I ain't got one that size anyway.
Yeah, we need to keep it with those.
Cause this one too big. This is for this one back here.
And it didn't come in the package. I don't even know what these are for. Finally got all the freeze plugs into the small block engine, so now that's going to prevent any future leaks of the antifreeze or the coolant. And we did it all around the engine block except for like this one over here because we don't have one that fits in and we think it's factory. Now we just need to get all the leftover gaskets off. We're going to use a razor blade and go through and pull pull all of it off so get the perfect seal. All right, we went ahead and decided to use a grinder and one of those paint wheels so we don't have to chip off or take any of the metal off. We're just trying to get all the gasket, which there was also leftover paint from the previous owner who sprayed on there, so that helps getting that off. We're taking extra precaution. All right, now we brought the engine outside, and so we're gonna clean it up, use some degreaser and some water to hopefully get all the excess dust and paint off that has, peeled off. We need to clean up in here, and to prevent rusting, we're gonna use engine oil for the cylinders. So we're gonna make sure that everything's cleaned up before we rebuild the block. And with the engine finally cleaned up, it was time to paint it. So we went ahead and used some Scotch tape and taped up the areas where we were going to put the plastic to cover up the internals, because we did not want to get paint in there because that could mess up everything. And so we wanted to take extra precautions with trying to keep everything clean. It's Christmas over here because we're going to wrap this 350 up to paint it. The paint Ford blue on a Chevy 350. All right, we got the first coat of blue paint onto the engine. It's rated for 600 degrees, so hopefully that would be sustainable on this engine. While that dries, we're going to move on to the pistons and get the rings off and clean them up, and then put the new rings back on, getting them prepared to be put back in the cylinders. We're using brake cleaner to clean off the pistons, get all the old oil and stuff off of it. We're going to end up reusing these pistons, so we're going to try to clean out all the sludge out from under the piston rings as well. And with the third coat fully dried, this engine looks absolutely amazing. It's better compared to the red, and it matches the truck really well. We finally cleaned up all the pistons. All those pistons are clean. They have no carbon on them at all. And then now we just need a tool to put the pistons back in. And also, I forgot that we need to put the piston rings back in as well. But we need to put them in the cylinders. And then we need to get this crankshaft in the engine as well. The next thing for us to do was install the crankshaft, and then we added the main bearings into the main bearing caps, which we put on top of the crankshaft into the small block, and we torqued them down 65 foot-pounds of torque to 75 foot-pounds of torque. And of course, we did the same thing for all 5 of the main bearing caps. A little side note here, but we did add lubricant on the main bearings and also added the seals before we put the crankshaft in. In order for the pistons to actually work right, we needed to add the piston rings on, which consisted of the top ring, second ring, 2 oil control rings, and the oil ring expander. We rubbed some oil on the piston so it would be able to slide down into the cylinder easier using that tool that we got. We took the end of a hammer and knocked the piston into the cylinder, and once it reached the crankshaft, we put the rod cap on the big bearing inserts and tightened them down. And over the course of a couple of hours, we finally got all of the pistons into the small block one by one, and this was a tedious process because we had to put in the piston rings and also had to get the tool to work properly for the piston to slide down into the cylinders. So we already got half the pistons in. We're working on number 5 and 6. So far, we're having a little bit of trouble getting clamping down the piston rings and getting them to slide in. But I think that's just a skill issue. I believe it'll get easier once we keep doing it. Other than that, everything's going in pretty easily. And I believe that this engine is going to be a pretty good one. We aligned the timing marks, then installed the timing chain, get the old seal out of the timing chain cover so we can put the new one on it. We got a chrome timing cover, and of course it needs some work. It needs to be cleaned up, and also we need to flatten out that a little bit and get a new gasket to put on it. But after you finish that, we're going to be able to put it on, and I think it would look good with the aluminum heads. Before we closed the shop, our buddy Johnson Jerk came over and showed us his Camaro, and this thing was slick. So huge shout out to him and this awesome Camaro. See what he does. It was the next day and we finally got the aluminum heads in the mail. I was so excited to get them open. I could already see a little bit of it. Dude, that looks awesome. It even got stickers, but look. So this is the aluminum heads. It should already have most of the stuff in there. Let me turn it around. So that is the aluminum head. It already has most of the valves in there, but we need to actually get the rockers in with bigger exhaust ports and intake ports. This thing was going to give us more horsepower and more flow into and out of the engine. Pair that with the heads being 40 to 50% lighter than stock. This makes a great upgrade. It was now time to get this engine 100% put back together. So we started out with the oil pan, then the Fram oil filter. We flipped the engine back over and added some head gaskets, and then we finally put the aluminum heads onto the small block. That looks pretty good. Dang. That looks like a racing engine right there. Now with one aluminum head on the small block, it was now time to add the lifters and then the roller rockers. We used some brakes and parts cleaner to clean off the roller rockers, and we made sure to wipe it all off before we put them onto the engine to make sure that there was no debris blocking any of the ports. So it might allow it to have better space. After putting the gaskets on, we put the chrome valve covers on, and it just set off the look of the aluminum heads. It looks really good. All right, we got this water neck, and it's going to be put right there on the engine, on the intake, and then we got the gasket as well. So
How much difference that make you think it's
we are going to put these on. We got them in chrome. It's going to look a whole lot better than the other one. So let's get into it.
Bolts like that. What's it? What that?
Hang on. Get the head of myself here.
Yeah, that looks really good.
I said it's probably 32.
Well, we got the thermostat in there as well. Dang, dude, look at that. The valve covers just set it off. Dang, that looks good right there. We wanted to go ahead and get some valve cover wing nuts so that we add a little bit of flair to the engine, but it ended up breaking on us later on, so we removed them completely and we're never going to add them again. Alright, we have just installed the valve cover wing nuts on this side. We painted these things blue over here, and I think it sets it off pretty well. We're struggling with one rod that has the threads are kind of boogered up, so we had to run it through a little nut, clean them off, but should be going in just fine now. But we are kind of confused about the cap as well. We don't know if it's supposed to stay on or not. Guys, so we just got finished putting the engine back together. It's ready to be put in there, but we need to get the transmission ready. So we got this turbo 350. We had to get a new tail shaft and some seals put in there, but once we had it opened up, we realized that it has been rebuilt already. So now we just need to get this transmission onto the engine, and then that we'll be able to put the engine and transmission into the truck together. And so that would just make life a whole lot easier. Before we did anything, we had to get the engine off the engine stand, so we grabbed some chain and we attached it to the engine, and then we unbolted everything and slowly let the engine down onto the ground so we'll be able to attach the transmission to it. We took the Turbo 350 and we put it onto the creeper so we could roll it over there to the engine, and so we were able to bolt it to the clutch after we got the torque converter on. Finally got the transmission all hooked up and torqued down to the engine, and now the engine has to be raised up to be able to be put into the truck, as that's going to be hard. We got to make sure it's height up enough, and we have to make sure that it's laying back so that we could get it straight through that hole right there. Make sure you don't try this at home. This is very sketchy. We're just two very not smart people trying to install an engine. And when I tell y'all guys that this was so sketchy, I mean it. There was a few times that we thought we was going to chop the engine, but thankfully we managed to actually get in the truck safely. Finally got the engine and transmission into the truck. It took us a little while to get it just right for the engine mounts and the transmission mounts, but now we're going ahead and actually getting the distributor in as well. So let's go ahead and do that. We installed the fan shroud. It was held in by only 2 small bolts. After that, we installed the fan. We hooked up the fuel hoses and the radiator hoses. Okay, it's about time for us to start this thing up, but we gotta take some extra precautions by getting this out. We're just checking everything, making sure that everything is connected and nothing is touching the exhaust. So we're gonna fire it up. Fingers crossed it actually works this time. First start, rebuilt engine. Dude, the exhaust fell off. That's why it's so loud. The final thing we needed to do before we was able to get this truck to drive, we needed to get the drive shaft actually connect from the transmission to the axle.
See, both of them's turning the same way.
And we tightened the bolts down with a 7/16 wrench until they were snug. After they were tight, it was finally ready to be driven. However, my stickers just came into the mail. They are a black American flag that I'm going to be putting on both sides of the bed. I think it's going to match really well with the color combo that I am going for the truck. And once the bed liner is on, it would match amazingly. Dang, dude. That looks pretty good. Now it is finally time for us to test drive the truck after we rebuilt the engine. First time shifting on the road. Kind of shifts a little hard though. Yeah. I think we need some more fluids. I think we need to mess with the timing a little bit. It's still not doing too good on like it should. So I believe that once we get the timing correct, it will run perfectly, smoothly. Let me see. Where at? Dude, that might be the culprit.
Probably why it's not running right.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. She sounds a whole lot better now. See if he doesn't stall it. Yeah. Now since we got the engine running right, it was now time to put the hood on the truck to complete the look. And so we just took the hood and adjusted it on the hinges and took 4 bolts and bolted them in. Want to see us actually ripping this thing on the road soon, please let me know by subscribing and liking. Tell me y'all's thoughts. Dust in the rear view, free as a bird. This is our time, no matter what they say.
Every mile behind only brought us here. Now the road is clear. Shotgun